Let's join Heather Volchko and Manny Huecias as they discuss the high leverage practice number 7, how to establish a consistent, organized, and respectful learning environment.
Welcome to A Little TLC, the podcast where we explore the dynamic world of education. Join our host, Heather Volchko, as this season we focus on high leverage practices, known as HLPs. Each episode will examine a different HLP, an essential strategy designed to enhance teaching and improve outcomes across various educational settings. These practices focus on collaboration, assessment, social emotional behavioral support, and instruction, benefiting all K-12 students. I hope you're ready to be both challenged and inspired because this season is all about mastering the HLPs. This is A Little TLC.
Establish a consistent, organized, and respectful learning environment. To build and foster positive relationships, teachers should establish age-appropriate and culturally responsive expectations, routines, and procedures within their classrooms that are positively stated and explicitly taught and practiced across the school year. When students demonstrate mastery and follow established rules and routines, teachers should provide age-appropriate specific performance feedback in meaningful and caring ways. By establishing, following, and reinforcing expectations of all students within the classroom, teachers will reduce the potential for challenging behavior and increase student engagement. When establishing learning environments, teachers should build mutually respectful relationships with students and engage them in setting the classroom climate, like rules and routines. Be respectful and value ethnic, cultural, contextual, and linguistic diversity to foster student engagement across learning environments.
For this HLP, we're talking about establishing a consistent, organized, and respectful learning environment. And this week, I have got Manny, one of our RBTs here, who does a ton of classroom coaching. So I'm super excited to see where he takes this conversation. So, Manny, what is this HLP? What does it look like?
I mean, the consistency aspect of it is just having those set routines and procedures, the organization, keeping the classroom structured, whether that's the schedule or the stuff in the classroom. And then the respect is the respect between students and staff, staff and staff, like all that fun, jazzy stuff. I think that's what this HLP is, especially in the like elementary school. I think that's consistent throughout all grade levels. But what it isn't is setting up the rules once, forgetting about them, or putting like strict rules and not letting the students have the input on them, or not being flexible, or punishing kids for doing stuff that they didn't even know was not allowed.
Yeah, it's interesting because some people find that to be really consistent. Say, like, well, I told him what it is. So it is what it is. And that's me being consistent. I am holding, firm expectations. Why is that not a fit for this HLP?
I mean, okay, so I tend to work with those younger kids, right? Especially in the elementary. Like, I'm sorry, you cannot tell a kindergartner classroom rules at the beginning of the school year once and expect them to remember that throughout the rest of the school year. Like,
Yeah.
some kids skip preschool, right? So like, it's not like this is
Mhm.
their first experience into the school. This, yes, mom and dad can set their own stuff at home, and but this is a new environment. They have no idea what they're doing. They have no idea what the rules are, or that the rules are even different from what they are at home. You
Mhm.
can't set them up once at the beginning and then not provide that consistency throughout the year. Like friendly reminders here and there. Like just because you told them once. I'm sorry. I have the attention span as a grown adult of 5 seconds. Tell me the rules twice, tell me the rules 3 times. Yes, by the third, fourth time, I might start being able to like piecing them together by myself and like remembering, oh right, no, I'm not supposed to do that here, or I'm not supposed to do that there. But you gotta give these kids a little more grace.
I think what you're talking about is the respect aspect, is that it's not just one way. It's not students will respect the staff, but it's that staff are actually respecting students by meeting them where they're at and providing those gentle reminders and not assuming that you say it once and then it sticks and that's just the way it is forever. I mean, especially, you and I have done a lot of work with a lot of students who've been through a lot of trauma in a very short period of time. And that, like, the biochemistry, like, it just does not work that way. It's not going to assume that it's always going to be consistent. So we need to continue those reminders. But I don't know. It sounds like you're kind of saying that, that is that respect that staff are showing students so that then students can show up and kind of engage in that respectful way that maybe staff tend to assume or expect.
And I think that not only flows from the student and staff two-way street, but like staff to staff. I cannot tell you the amount of
Mm.
times like I've seen teachers and their aides in the classroom, or teacher or teacher versus admin or
Yep.
admin versus, and like, especially because we work with so many kids with trauma, like seeing mom and dad fight at home or seeing mom and dad fight at school, however you want to put those
Yep.
authority figures. Like, yes, is that consistent? Sure. But is that the consistency we want? No. I think that's because, like, it should be that way too, right? Like, you don't just tell your aides, or you don't, whoever you're working with, you don't just tell them something once and expect them to know it. You gotta give them that grace. You gotta give them that, like, breathing room.
Yeah. So, why is this important? I think we're kind of dancing around it a little bit of saying, maybe kids with backgrounds of trauma or young students, right? But we're kind of almost caveating it to certain populations. But in all reality, like this high leverage practice is applicable all age ranges. I would even challenge in through like higher ed academia or in adult learning. So, when we are looking at consistency, when we're looking at really instilling that respectful environment. And a lot of that is coming through just being organized in how we're showing up and how we're doing what we're doing. Why is this actually helpful, especially when we're looking at like the students actually learning, whoever those students are and whatever they are learning?
So I think it sets fewer behavior problems, having those clear
Mm,
expectations and routines,
hmm.
just like, all right, there is something we have set here, like we're gonna keep going through that all year. So like it causes those fewer problems when it's clarified more than once, and having that clarification as a routine, having schedules as a routine, adding that to the organizational piece. Like, you get less disruptions, you get less kids upset, you got less kids crying, you got less kids trying to break the rules because they know they get to learn what's expected, they get to learn what's coming next without it being necessarily a surprise. That leads to like better engagement because students are more
Mm,
likely to participate and stay focused as they know what's coming up, as they know what to expect, as they know, this teacher acts this way, so we can have some more fun with them, or this teacher acts this way, so we got to be a little nicer, or like,
hmm.
we're doing this activity and I don't want to stop doing that. So I need to be on my A game in the activity before. Organizational piece that also, like, again, with the schedule, like, just supports the learning in the sense that it provides a structured and respectful environment that helps the student concentrate because there's
Mm.
no surprises. There's nothing taking them by the side. Like, I love walking into buildings and kids going, Mr. Manny, fully aware that that causes a disruption.
Yeah.
But when I've gone to buildings on a more consistent rate, like, that becomes
Hmm.
less of a, like, surprise. Like, yes, I get less kids going, Mr. Manny, but like, that's good.
Hmm.
I love the fact that they're excited to see me, but the less excited they are to see me upon initial contact, the less of a disruption, the less of a surprise it is. It's part of that routine. It's part of that organizational structure. I'm expected to be there at some point, and that I think applies in various capacities in that.
Well, I mean, what you're saying is exactly what I implement in higher ed, as well as in like alternative ed in high school. Like in my classroom, it wasn't organized in the sense of rigidity and this is what we're doing and there is no like way around it. It's no, like we have, if we're going to change a schedule and we're going to do that, especially in high school, if we're going to do that in a collaborative way, something's got to give here. Well, there's a consistent way of walking through how we're negotiating that
Mhm.
change in that system or in the schedule. Also, students coming in with all kinds of chaos happening outside of the doors, walking in and needing an opportunity to like, how do I ground myself? Like, how do I know what's even coming? I mean, that's what you were talking about with the schedule. So it might look one way in elementary, look a completely different way in secondary, but there is still that opportunity to say, like, hey, here's what's coming. You can prepare yourself for it because I am going to ask you to do it. And if we've set up that respectful learning environment, we've set them up to be successful in just like that organizational structure around them, well, then they can rise to the occasion. We're not, dealing with all the unknowns and the uncertainty. And that's actually the resistance. It's not the activity even that we're asking them to do, it's the uncertainty or that I didn't know what's coming. And I'm just pushing back to I didn't know, as opposed to I don't want to do that thing that you're asking me to do. We see that across all grade levels.
Yeah, and I may have shared this before on some other thing we've recorded, but like, one of my favorite examples of like having student input, not just with the rules, but like scheduling, right? Like,
Hmm.
worked early on with a high school teacher, an alternative ed high school teacher.
Hmm.
Super great guy, had a bunch of kids from different grade levels in his room, but that, like, he was big on student input. Everything
Mhm.
from the rules to, hey guys, all right, so we have a little flexibility in our schedule. Do you guys want to do gym before lunch, after lunch? Do you guys want to do this before or after math?
Mhm.
And like, yes, there were some things that the kids would shove to the end of the day, but it was still accomplished.
Yeah.
You can't have it and not do it. Like,
Yeah.
but he would do that weekly at the start of each week. Hey guys, here's the rules we had last week up. Do we
Mhm.
still need some of these? Are we following them so intrinsically at this point that like we can add a different rule that we've noticed that the classroom is struggling with?
Mhm.
Not, that so and so is struggling with, but like that we as a classroom are struggling with. Can we add that here and remove this one? And that student input, like, was he still given flack by the students? Was there still that? Yeah, but like to a large degree, I'd say that it was a very mutually respectful classroom.
Yeah.
And I think that student input helped a lot. That's not easy to do with the elementary school kids. But like, do you guys want to do this activity before or after snack? Do we
Mhm.
want to do it during snack? All right, guys, like here's the rules of, once a week, twice a week, beginning, end of the week. If you're doing a point system in your class, like, all right, here's the rules that we had set up this week. Like, people earned points for this, and don't call out students specifically, don't like give
Mhm.
quantities or whatever, but like just give them that refresher, that whatever.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is both on that organization side, like I am partnering with my students to walk them through what they're about to do. But I think that we're almost positioning them to then learn from their choices, which I believe is a respectful thing to do. I'm not just going to, give the answer or tell them what they need to do. Yes, I probably know like how this is going to be done best, but they don't yet, and they haven't figured that out. And if I just then strong arm them through what I know is best for them, and they're not necessarily part of that, they may not even register it as actually good for them. And that just instills that power struggle and all those, points of tension and frustration on all fronts. When I have had the opportunity to set out opportunities for them to pick, like, here's what we need to do. You tell me when and how we're doing it. I've definitely had those situations where they push the thing all the way to the end, and I'm like, "Oh, that's gonna suck. Like, this is gonna be
Hmm.
horrible." Right? And then we get to that moment and they're like, "Oh, miss, this is horrible." I'm like, "Yeah, I agree with you. Like, we're in this together now. Maybe let's not make that choice again." Right? And it gives them that opportunity to see, "Oh, that's why. Okay, cool. Hey, next time, do we wanna make that choice again?" "No, no, no, no. Okay, cool. Let's make a different choice." But it's allowing them to walk that so that they can see it, right? Within reason. I know there's things that we can't always just let them, explore and learn on their own. But I do believe a whole lot of things within like classroom structures, routines, and it really does position us to demonstrate the respect to them that we are assuming and expecting from them, and it becomes just mutual right off the bat. And quite honestly, it's not standard practice, although it's all over the research, it's all over everywhere. Like, this is the way to do it, but it just isn't common. So it's really, really interesting to see in classrooms where we get to partner with educators who are partnering with their students. They're living this out and not even knowing that it's a fancy high leverage practice because they're just doing right by their kids, and then their kids are doing right by them, and we see them to be really effective, efficient, like we're closing those learning gaps and making things happen. You've been part of some of those interactions, like coaching some of those staff and working with some students that are trying to make sense of things too. What other examples are kind of coming to mind for you as I'm talking here?
I've seen staff of different ages
Mhm.
implementing this.
Yeah.
Had a conversation with a staff at one point of like, oh, only the younger teachers do that, right? Like only the
Yeah.
younger, because like, and I think there is a
Good
weird
point.
perception of like the older teachers, I've been here, I've done this way for so many years, and like this is how we're gonna keep doing it. And I think that like shifted specifically after COVID.
Good call.
I'm sorry, but things are not normal. You have a generation of kids who
Yeah.
may not know what's coming next or the expectations that were set before them because like we had a weird reset during the time.
Yeah.
But I've seen younger teachers do it and I've seen older teachers do it. And it's funny because like the older staff that I've seen, it's like, yeah, no, I've had so many kids and I've had so many grandbabies and I've had so many. They're like, it's just easier to have them help instead of strong arming them because then we actually accomplish stuff.
Yeah.
And the young teachers are like, they're about the same height as me. So like if I can get them to help me, it negates some of that, negative behavior or some of that like, yeah, some of those weird power struggles, especially when there's like not a significant age difference between the young teacher and the oldest student in the classroom.
Yeah. I don't know if you were part of the conversation or not, but I know I ended up working with a teacher, and we kind of uncovered the reason that they preferred a more authoritative kind of top-down directive style classroom management or style of interaction was truly because they didn't have any other tools and they just didn't know. And so it's really scary to be like, I don't even know what I'm doing. How the heck am I supposed to now partner with my students to help them tell me what I'm doing? And I think that that does cross, the generational divide of folks that are in the classroom right now as well. And I think that's really, really wise of you to note kind of that COVID shift because we saw educators who are master educators and have been doing amazing things in the classroom have a complete, "Oh, what is this?" when everything shifted to go online, right? And so then all of a sudden they were first year teachers all
Hmm.
over again. And so some people we saw the exit, some people just said, "This is not for me. I can take early retirement and I'm out." But other people, it was like this renewed refresh of like, "Okay, well, let's try other strategies. Let's figure out other ways to do it." And it's been really cool to see then some of those, if it's virtual instruction or just the openness to try new practices and see what sticks, that has then translated back into, I would say traditional education in terms of like brick and mortar, show up in the morning and leave in the afternoon style. And that has cross generations. So like that was really astute of you to note that some of those stereotypes really are maybe not as applicable anymore, especially for anyone who was teaching within the heat of COVID.
And like I said, like I've seen what we're talking about here with the collaboration style with staff and student. Like, I've seen that with the older, and I've seen that with the youngest of
Mhm.
teachers that we worked with. But I've also seen that top-down view, organizational hierarchy with
Mhm.
older staff and younger staff, right?
Yep.
Like you got the older staff again, who I've been here this long. This is how I've always done it. This is how I'm going to keep doing it.
Yep.
But I've also had the younger staff of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm
Yeah.
so overwhelmed. Like this is helping me maintain myself sane,
Right.
and they may not be expressing it as well as they could be.
Mhm.
But like I understand where both sides are coming from. But like I think when this HLP is implemented well, I think it just naturally leads to better collaboration between staff and staff, staff and students. That's the consistency. That's the organization. You can have random student like show up with a new student and be like, all right, here's how we do things without having the teacher having to explain it, right? Like, here's
Yeah.
where we put our stuff. That teacher's super cool. That teacher's super sweet. That teacher always has candy on their desk. Like, you can have students leading other students. You can have subs being led by the paras. But like when everyone knows things because things are set in a collaborative, consistent way.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience and your expertise. I know you were in a bunch of different classrooms with a bunch of different kinds of students and staff, and you are navigating this conversation in so many different ways on the daily. So, thank you very much for sharing what you are out there doing.
Yeah, no problem.
Are you ready to choose a transformative learning journey that allows you to absorb, reflect, and apply new knowledge at your own pace? This week, it's Workshop Week. Join us for a collection of pre-recorded, immersive learning experiences designed to empower you with practical skills and moments of introspection. Our workshops are designed to be the perfect blend of structured learning and personal growth. Each session includes dedicated time for reflection and application, so you can truly internalize what you've learned. We want to invite you to head over to thresholdlearning.org, your one-stop destination for all things TLC. Here you'll find this episode's show notes and blog pairing, our entire catalog of ACE-accredited self-paced courses, an ever-expanding bookshelf of resources, and anything else we've talked about. See you there. Attention educators pursuing behavior analysis certifications. Supervision with TLC is designed for educators like you, offering remote supervision with school-based BCBAs that fits into your schedule instead of the other way around. Our supervised fieldwork approach allows you to earn your hours right in your classroom alongside your teaching responsibilities. Benefit from affordable rates, month-to-month scheduling, and comprehensive supervision, all 100% remote. Our school-based BCBAs are here to guide you every step of the way. So why switch jobs when you can stay in education and grow professionally? Explore more at thresholdlearning.org/supervision and see how we can help you succeed.
To build and foster positive relationships, teachers should establish age-appropriate and culturally responsive expectations, routines, and procedures within their classrooms that are positively stated and explicitly taught and practiced across the school year. When students demonstrate mastery and follow established rules and routines, teachers should provide age-appropriate, specific performance feedback in meaningful and caring ways. By establishing, following, and reinforcing expectations for all students within the classroom, teachers will reduce the potential for challenging behavior and increase student engagement. When establishing learning environments, teachers should build mutually respectful relationships with students and engage them in setting the classroom climate, such as through rules and routines, be respectful, and value ethnic, cultural, contextual, and linguistic diversity to foster student engagement across learning environments. Effective special education teachers are masters at creating learning environments that are consistent, organized, and deeply respectful, all of which are crucial for supporting student success. Their approach is rooted in practices that prioritize the social and emotional well-being of their students. A key part of their strategy is focusing on increasing appropriate behavior through an instructional approach that explicitly teaches social skills. This method allows students to practice these skills throughout the day, with teachers providing positive, specific feedback to reinforce appropriate behaviors. These teachers also proactively address potential challenges by implementing evidence-based practice to prevent social, emotional, and behavioral issues before they escalate, offering early intervention as soon as any risks appear. As student challenges become more complex, these educators respond with a team-based problem-solving strategy that intensifies support in line with the needs identified through behavioral assessments. Even when addressing significant behavioral issues, these supports are delivered in a manner that is caring, respectful, and culturally relevant. What stands out in their approach is the recognition that both academic and behavioral strategies are far more effective when they are built on a foundation of positive and caring teacher-student relationships. Teachers understand that while they can't force students to learn or behave, they can certainly create an environment that makes it much more likely for both to happen. Central to any effective classroom is a set of clear, consistent rules, routines, and procedures that keep students engaged and focused throughout the day. These procedures are implemented in a proactive and positive way, with the teacher serving as a model of respect and care in all interactions. Rules are communicated in positive terms, focusing on what students should do rather than what they shouldn't, and are kept simple, usually 5 or fewer. Behavioral expectations are taught through clear examples and non-examples and are practiced regularly until students achieve mastery. Routines are meticulously planned from how students enter and exit the classroom to how they respond to the teacher's attention signal and seek assistance. Each procedure is broken down into critical steps, which are explicitly taught and practiced with the students. The literature suggests a recommended ratio where for every corrective statement, teachers should make at least 4 acknowledgments of appropriate behavior, emphasizing mastery rather than focusing on mistakes. Teachers also ensure that students have ample opportunities to respond to both social and academic prompts throughout the day. These prompts are tailored to the expectations at hand, whether it's a social norm like voice levels during transitions or an academic task. The frequency of these opportunities to respond varies depending on the age and severity of the student's disability, but is a primary instructional strategy for building both fluency and proficiency. In every lesson, the goal is to achieve a balance of direct instruction, ample practice opportunities, and high rates of feedback, all of which are designed to ensure that students are successful, typically aiming for at least 80% proficiency. This approach maximizes engagement and minimizes off-task behavior. As students progress, their learning is carefully monitored, and teachers adjust their instruction, practice, and feedback to meet the evolving needs of their students. When teachers and school staff create a consistent, organized, and respectful learning environment, they set the stage for students to thrive, both academically and behaviorally. In a chaotic classroom, students can't learn, and teachers can't perform at their best when constantly managing off-task behaviors. However, when teachers invest time in explicitly teaching classroom rules and expectations, approach behavioral issues as learning opportunities, and treat students with respect, they are well equipped to build positive relationships and support student success. This practice is closely connected with other high leverage practices, such as High Leverage Practice 16, which emphasizes the use of explicit instruction, and High Leverage Practice 8 and 22, which focuses on providing positive and constructive feedback to guide students' learning and behavior. Additionally, effective special educators collaborate with colleagues as outlined in High Leverage Practice 1 and 2 and use a range of data sources, as described in High Leverage Practice 4 and 6, to evaluate the effectiveness of their classroom environment and make necessary adjustments to ensure student success. Teachers who effectively establish a consistent, organized, and respectful learning environment begin by ensuring that expectations, rules, and procedures are clear, observable, and positively stated. This isn't just about laying down the law. These guidelines are articulated in ways that students can easily understand and apply, no matter where they are in the school. It's also essential that these expectations and rules resonate with the diverse cultures, values, and beliefs of the students and families represented in the school. Effective teachers don't just impose rules, they thoughtfully incorporate the rich cultural backgrounds of their students, making the learning environment inclusive and respectful of everyone's identity. These teachers know that simply stating rules isn't enough. They establish and explicitly teach 3 to 5 core expectations, like being respectful, responsible, and safe. And it doesn't stop there. They bring students and other stakeholders into the process, making sure that these expectations are meaningful to everyone involved. To support these expectations, specific behaviors or classroom rules are clearly defined and taught. Teachers also create and teach consistent procedures for daily tasks, such as how to line up or how to seek help, giving students a structured way to navigate their day. Throughout the year, these expectations and rules aren't just set in stone and forgotten. Effective teachers regularly revisit and reteach them as needed, always using consistent language to reinforce what's been established. They help students understand why these rules matter, grounding their behavior in a rationale that makes sense. An essential part of this process is recognizing that all behavior is a form of communication. Effective teachers interpret student behavior through this lens, which allows them to respond in ways that address the underlying needs, rather than just the surface-level actions. To encourage students to follow these expectations, teachers minimize unstructured time and ensure that the rules are visible throughout the school. They also thoughtfully arrange the physical space to maximize flow and accessibility, and they use strategies like pre-correction to anticipate and prevent issues before they arise. Frequent, consistent, and positive feedback is key, reinforcing the behaviors that align with classroom expectations and maintaining a positive, supportive environment for all students. School leaders play a crucial role in supporting teachers by ensuring they are proficient in key classroom management practices and applying them consistently across various settings. This involves providing feedback on how effectively these practices are implemented with different students, helping educators fine-tune their approach. Leaders should also foster a school environment where proactive and positive classroom management is the standard, creating a supportive and productive atmosphere. Additionally, it's important for leaders to collaborate with their staff to develop a cohesive set of response strategies for acknowledging appropriate behaviors and addressing challenges. By ensuring consistency in these strategies across all classrooms, leaders help reinforce expectations and maintain a positive learning environment for all students. Establishing a clear, consistent, and positive learning environment is more than just a best practice. It's the bedrock upon which all other high-leverage practices are built. Think of it as the stage on which the drama of teaching and learning unfolds. When this foundation is solid, students are more likely to succeed both academically and socially. It opens the door for educators to engage in effective instructional practices and nurtures a climate of care and respect between teachers and students. Research over the past 50 years continuously underscores the significant impact that robust classroom management and effective instruction have on students' academic achievements and social behaviors. Essentially, when the environment is right, everything else falls into place, making teaching and learning a more impactful and positive experience. We hope you enjoyed today's discussion. Don't forget to join us next week for an enlightening conversation with Ann Potter about high leverage practice number 8, how to provide positive and constructive feedback to guide students' learning and behavior. It's going to be a great one.
Hey, before you jump back into your busy life, consider dropping a like and follow Threshold Learning TLC on Facebook and Instagram. And if you like our show, share the podcast with your colleagues. A personal recommendation is by far the best way to promote the podcast. Let them know that they can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else they catch their podcasts. Just be sure to leave a rating and review on your favorite platform. You can also email us at info@thresholdlearning.org. We always enjoy connecting with fellow educators and champions for educational justice. You can find everything you're looking for at thresholdlearning.org. See you there.